You're listening to the Big Cast, your source for the latest in financial technology. Brought to you weekly by the Best Innovation Group, with your hosts, John Best and Glenn Sarvati.
Welcome to another edition of the Big Cast. My name is Glenn Sarvati on behalf of the Best Innovation Group, where we love to do cool things with financial technology, and looking forward to doing another whole bunch of that stuff here in 2024. We've got a guest today that is thinking very much along the same lines. I guess I can still say newly minted CEO of NACUSO, the Credit Union Service Organization trade group. Ronaldo Hardy, the CEO of NACUSO, will be joining us to talk about what he has in mind as far as his vision for that organization going forward as he takes over from the very capable and large footsteps of Jack Antonini, who's been in that seat for some time. Before that, let me just remind you can always find out more about the Best Innovation Group by visiting our website, big-fintech.com, and you'll find us with new content here on the Bigcast every Tuesday. Join us whenever you can. You can always find the link at the website or via wherever you get your typical podcasts, Apple Music, Spotify, etc. Give us a like, subscribe there if you are so inclined. We would certainly appreciate it. As always, let me just start off with a little bit of kind of current events news. The big one that really caught my eye this week and hasn't gotten a lot of attention as far as I can tell is Fiserv applying for what is referred to as a merchant acquirer limited purpose bank charter. Key words, bank charter for Fiserv. They stress that they have no interest in becoming a full-service bank, but what they're looking to do is apply for the ability to do more direct merchant processing without working with a bank partner. They're doing this through a Georgia license that's been available since 2012. It was a law that was passed then. Although it's a Georgia licensed institution, obviously it would give it nationwide reach in terms of their ability to execute on those transactions. Interestingly, and I'll post a link to a Payments Dive article. I think they've done the best kind of coverage on this of anybody that I've seen so far, so you can read a little bit more there. Apparently, even though this opportunity has been in place now for going on 12 years, no one has actually taken the state of Georgia up on that yet. That's where I live. We've always been very forward in terms of our approaches to banking. It's one of the reasons why we've got such a strong payments business down here. But this one is interesting. The Payments Dive coverage basically points out that this is probably more a matter of necessity in terms of the fact that this doesn't tend to be a priority area for banks. I know that was already one of the problems, especially as there's been more pushback and scrutiny around banking as a service, that it may just not be something that banks are as interested in getting involved in. Again, trying to keep their customers comfortable. Fiserv mentions that they plan to continue to work with bank partners in this as long as they are interested in doing so. So you could think of it that from that standpoint as kind of covering their bases to make sure that they have the capability. But there's also the vertical integration aspect of it, and I think there's obviously some optics here that they are going more directly into competition with their customers. So interesting stuff. I'm sure we're going to be hearing more about that, and we'll be following along. So that's definitely an interesting one. The other interesting story this week was the Bitcoin ETF finally being approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission, even after it got a kind of a false alarm the day before where someone, I think we can kind of figure out which group might have been more interested in doing this, hacked the SEC and announced the approval about a day before it actually was truly approved, which is pretty interesting in itself. We had our annual prediction episode recently of the Bigcast, and we always predict where Bitcoin's going to be. As you've seen, it's been riding quite high lately, in part, I think, in anticipation of exactly what just happened with Bitcoin. And these ETFs, spot ETFs is what it is, so you don't have to worry about directly buying Bitcoin anymore. You can do so through the traditional exchanges. And they've approved, I forget how many, it's a handful of funds, 5, 6, 7 funds. I'm sure there will be more coming up. We're going to go back and I'll post the link, but this is probably more fuel to the fire that says that the price of Bitcoin will probably hold on a little bit better. And John Best was unbelievably accurate last year in his expectations of where it would fall at the end of 2023, although it rode a somewhat different ride than he expected. So you can go back and listen to what he thinks is going to happen for 2024 as well. With no further ado, let's get into Ronaldo Hardy, who I met for the first time recently at Venture Tech. And we'd been talking about getting together and having this conversation for some time. As I said, he's got a really interesting background in the primarily in the credit union space. He's been the CEO of a couple of small credit unions, as well as taken on some other very interesting roles, as you're going to hear. And very interested to see what he does in terms of bringing his vision to the NACUSO organization. So let's have a listen. I'm here with Ronaldo Hardy, I guess, and still, I'd still say new president and CEO of NACUSO. Is that fair, Ronaldo? I guess you got about, what, 6 months under your belt?
Yeah, I still feel new though.
6 months is still, yeah, especially with an organization of that size, quite a shift and great experience that you've got that you bring to the table. So thanks for taking the time. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So why don't we start with a quick primer for those who may not be familiar with NACUSO? Can you tell us a little bit about the mission of the organization, the membership base, how long it's been around, et cetera?
Absolutely. So we are the National Association of Credit Union Service Organizations. Next year, we will turn 40 as an
40.
association. So
Wow.
we've been around for a little while now. We actually are an ecosystem that allows every facet of the industry to belong. So we have, our membership focuses on credit unions, CUSOs, fintechs, and we've also created space for credit union service partners to be a part of what we're building at on the CUSO. And part of that is because as an association, our focus or contribution to the industry is to inspire innovation and cultivate collaboration. And we feel to do that right and well, then we need to make sure that we have all of the minds at the table to collaborate with one another in a way that would drive innovation for our industry as a whole. And so I'm excited to be a part of the team and what we're building, and we have quite a vision ahead of us.
That's interesting. I've learned something new already, and I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't know this because I usually think of these organizations as being very specific. So you don't need to be a CUSO to be a member, is what you're telling me.
You don't have to be. So we have two membership levels. One focuses on credit unions and CUSOs. The other does allow, and also fintechs are able to be in our space. The other allows for credit union service partners to connect. And sometimes when those various membership levels exist, it means that the interaction with the association has to look different. But what we've created is a space where all who are a part of our ecosystem get to interact in the same way. So when you come, especially like our conference, there's a sense of belonging when you come to what we have built. And I love that. I think that it is what we need as an industry.
Do you have a number? I mean, how many CUSOs do we know? I know you've got a CUSO analyzer, kind of a database
Yes.
that's out there. How many CUSOs do we have that are active? Do we have a good sense for that?
Yeah, on record, it's just over 1,000 is what, if you look at what's recorded. But, we always talk with our understanding that there is not a database that really does contain all of them. Our thoughts are that that number is probably closer to 1,500. But, on record, just over 1,000 QSOs exist. I think the number is like 1,021 or something like that.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought my head was there, someplace around the 1,200 kind of in your database, but I figured the number was larger and more forming all the time.
Mhm.
Now you bring a really interesting experience. You've been the CEO of a couple of, I'd say, smaller credit unions. Were they both kind of in the 100 million range, roughly? Am I correct on that?
Yeah, so one was a little smaller than that, but the second one, yeah, was in 100 million range.
And you were
And
also the sales
very
manager
different.
for a slightly larger one too?
I was. So my journey in credit union started at one of the largest credit unions in Louisiana, and I had an opportunity to actually hold seven roles while I was there. And the last position I held there was sales manager.
Wow. Okay. So how involved or how aware were you of NACUSO before you took on this job? And what was it about it that really kind of appealed to you to make the shift from the direct credit union side? Well, I guess you had done that already because you were also at CU Strategic Planning for a period too. But yeah, if you'd say a bit more about your journey that brought you here.
Absolutely. So I had interacted with NACUSO once before back in 2015, the credit union that I was leading at the time. We were interested in forming a CUSO along with other small to mid-sized credit unions to work on an initiative that would combine our back office operations, which is something that, others have done as well. We were seeking to pursue that at the time. And so I engaged NACUSO just because I knew we would need some guidance as we worked through the process to form it. Outside of that, I had not had a ton of engagement with NACUSO. Ironically, last year when the conference was occurring, up and down my LinkedIn timeline was everyone posting all these pictures of the amazing time they're having at the conference. And I'm thinking to myself, I had major FOMO, like I'm missing out on something I want to be a part of. I had no idea that 1 year later I would get a chance to go and be a part of it. But as CEO, for me in particular, what drew my interest to this role is the understanding that I have about where the industry sits. And earlier in my career, as I was growing and developing, and people were becoming aware of who I was on the national scene, I actually used to do a lot of work as it relates to innovation and future focused ideation. And I know I took a journey to lead us through conversations around DEI for a few years, but I love that it brought me back to the roots of what I love to do. I am so inspired by challenging norms and being innovative and thinking outside of the box. And our industry really, really needs a lot of infusion of that right now because consumers are evolving at a rapid pace. Their expectations continue to move, and just keeping up with what they desire by way of technology, access to products and services, it's a lot more difficult to keep the pace today. So for credit unions to have a competitive advantage as we move forward, I believe that we have to be entrepreneurial, we have to be innovative, we have to collaborate with one another, we have to be willing to do what it takes to build what consumers need. And I believe that what we're doing at NACUSO is going to become one of the most vital, important components of our industry being successful over the next decade. That was one of the things that I shared with the board when I interviewed for this role. So I was intrigued by the opportunity to move our industry forward in this way, understanding where we are. We are undergoing significant transformation, and I want to be a part of what our future looks like by helping to shape it.
I read in another interview that you kind of spent, which I think is a really logical and really admirable approach to this, that you spent the first couple months of your role and time in this role kind of going on a listening tour to understand what the marketplace, I guess your membership, et cetera, was thinking. Any insights you can tell us what you heard from that and how it may have all differed from what you thought coming into the role in the first place?
Absolutely. So I will tell you that I was not surprised by much of what I heard. I love the excitement that people have for what they're working on and through the things that they love about what we do, especially our conference. So many people speak to the level of excitement and enthusiasm that occurs at our conference. But what I heard from most people is that they really want to see us expand and do more. They want more opportunities to collaborate and innovate. They don't want to just come to the conference once a year and then go home and have to wait another year to be engaged or re-engaged, but they want something ongoing. They want to see us build a more complete ecosystem. And to me, it was very much in line with what I was already thinking before joining NACUSO, in line with the conversations that the board and I were having early on, continue to have, and it really fueled what we put together as our strategic plan. I'm very excited about that, and that's one of the things that those who are part of the conference this year will get a chance to see and hear before anyone else, is where we're going as an organization, and that listening tour really contributed well to the shaping of our vision for the future.
Aha. So that's a bit of foreshadowing, and I guess the big reveal will be at the conference. And
It
that's
will be, for those who are not there, then they're gonna miss out on the big reveal.
yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up in mid-April. But
Yes,
I guess, and that was one of my questions, and I think maybe that's maybe kind of what you're alluding to is, I associate NACUSO with a pretty good size annual event that typically, is in the spring months, but then you've got 11 other months of the year. So I guess kind of building out and making sure you keep that momentum going is,
absolutely.
yes, where you're going. So yeah, more to come, I'm sure, in April.
More to come.
So, coming from a small credit union space, I'm also curious because when you think about engagement of credit unions with CUSOs, I think of Michigan State. They're very heavily involved with a lot of different providers in building out a portfolio, and in terms of the credit unions that have the wherewithal to make investments into these providers as well. From a small credit union perspective that you bring to the table, how do you see the small credit unions and the opportunity for them to work with CUSOs as well?
Well, I believe that when we look at the small credit unions, we have an opportunity to help them not only survive but thrive by making sure that they not only engage with the utilization of QSOs but also the formation of such. And I think that, especially coming from a background where I led smaller institutions, there's so much opportunity that exists in those areas and in those lanes. The first credit union I led when I took over was 23 million in assets. We had an opportunity to grow it to 30 million, which for an organization that size was growth in the time, good growth in the time period that I was there. But we also did not allow the size to limit our impact. Trade publications would cover our work, all around the nation because of how progressive we were. Vendors loved working with us because we felt larger in terms of our organizational strategy, our vision. We were able to push our vendors. I remember when we did a core conversion, we were able to push our core at that time to deploy their core via tablets, and we were the driver of that innovation. So I think when smaller shops can see themselves as having the opportunity to do more, be more, grow more, and then they won't allow size to limit vision and not allow size to limit impact as well. And I think, matter of fact, I know that if more of them would engage in the QSO model, in particular, the formation of such, it could create opportunities to thrive. At the very bare minimum, there should be utilization of QSOs because of the products and services and the innovations that are offered to our membership bases by doing so. But I'd like to take them a step further to show them how, through the power of collaboration with one another, so many things could be built to create a thriving small credit union system that could grow. And we want to be a part of that type of impact.
Totally agree. Makes a ton of sense. My favorite piece, I guess not too surprisingly, it's kind of one of the flagship pieces of your event, is the Next Big Idea competition, which
Yes.
is always fun to watch. And I went back and reminded myself of some of your winners who have all gone on to some really impressive stuff. Any thoughts? I mean, I love the way that brings visibility often to some companies that are extremely new, and in many cases, if I'm not mistaken, aren't even necessarily QSOs yet by the time they get on stage.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I really, really love about what we do. You mentioned several who have come through this competition go on to do great things. And I was having this conversation with someone recently, especially because we're in the lane of innovation. We aren't the only in the lane of innovation, but our unique contribution to the industry is the fact that we scale solutions. So sometimes you look at innovation, there are multiple stages. There's the ideation, there's the incubation, and then the implementation. And sometimes that succeeds, sometimes it doesn't. But when you consider our ecosystem, because we are QSOs, fintechs, organizations that had great ideas, got out in the market, launched them well, and are growing them, I think we have such a unique opportunity to be a part of scaling solutions for the industry. And the Next Big Idea competition offers that. Somebody, these are companies that have amazing ideas to contribute to our industry, to move it forward. This competition allows them the stage, the platform to share what it is that they're doing in front of an audience that can hear it. They get the publicity on the other side of winning it. And as you said, many of them go on to grow to very large levels. And I've been excited just to see what we have been able to accomplish in the past. Taking a look back, I've done like you, I've taken my journey through history to see who's come through the process and what they're doing now. I can think of Goal Setter, the most recent winner, and how you're seeing them all over the place. So I love that we do this. I love that it does contribute to the success of many startups that have gotten going because of being a part of it. And you will see us as we continue our journey forward. You will see us really emphasize helping to scale solutions because we believe that that's what we do.
And I'm looking back 1 year before that, Illuma Labs was the winner, and they're also extremely prominent on the scene.
Absolutely.
And 2021, Renify, I know they're doing well, and Silver, who probably even, not nothing against Renify, but Silver's probably taken on an even higher profile in the time since in terms of working with an elderly population and the aging population and helping families kind of support the next stage of life on a lot of these things. So yeah, there's a lot of great things. And we first got a chance to meet at Venture Tech, and I know NACUSO does some support of the Venture Tech process, which again creates a lot of that same visibility, which again speaks to the collaboration. It's not these two different events in competition. In fact, the first time I went to Venture Tech, it was actually piggybacked on the end of NACUSO coming out of the pandemic. So I love the way that works. And you mentioned ideation. I would say that one of the real services that the next big idea provides is validation, because you get a chance to get in front of a decent sized audience of potential customers who can say, "Hey, yeah, I think I could use this."
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I love about it. It helps to, like you say, it gives validation, and it just helps to you make those companies feel more established and that they have some type of footing to grow from. And there's just been so many success stories of those who have come through this competition. I can't wait to see who takes it this year.
You gotten far enough along? You starting to build the roster? I guess we've still got a few more months before.
Yeah, we're actually about to release the application for it. So it will be coming out within the next week or so, and we'll start building that. So I look forward to it.
I was going to say, so I mean, we haven't actually mentioned the dates. It's actually April 15th through the 18th down around Disney World.
Disney World, that's right. That's not a bad place to have to go, right? So.
And so we'll post a link both for people to register if they choose to the conference, and also for CUSOs who may be listening. Doesn't have to even be a CUSO, a service provider who might be interested in the next big idea. We'll put the link to that out there. Anything else? I mean, like I say, that's the big event that I always think about. But anything else that you'd point to at this year's conference that probably early enough that I'm always afraid when the agenda gets baked too early, because as you say, this industry moves so quickly. You don't want to miss the hot topic that might emerge between now and then.
Absolutely. I'm excited. Newer things we're doing this. I think people will be excited amongst a number of things that we're doing. So you'll see some things that are familiar, along with some things that are fresh at this year's conference. One of them will be a hackathon that we're going to do of sorts. Go through an ideation process around industry subject, just see what ideas emerge. I believe that's going to be amazing. We wanted to create an opportunity in real time where people collaborate to innovate, and so we're adding that this year. And I'm also excited about something that we're working through for Thursday. So we are working on a one-day, I say a one-day event. It's a part of the total event, but we have a day that's focused on the back end solely on digital transformation that entire day. And I'm excited about what that's going to look like, especially because it's become such a critical conversation in our industry. Nobody is without the conversation around digital transformation right now. And people are trying to figure out how to do it well, no matter where they are in their journey. So we're actually partnering with Circle on what this day is going to look like. Underground Collision is a part of it. And we're organizing something that's going to be quite fantastic. So for those who typically tip out early from the conference, I wouldn't do that this year, because Thursday it's going to be that impactful.
I was about to say, I have not booked, but I started looking at ticket flights and I'm like, okay, I better push it a few more hours later. I was not planning.
Exactly.
I don't think I can get out at lunchtime on Thursday now either. What about, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say the hackathon, is there a separate registration for that, or is that just something that you can participate on when you get on the scene?
It's going to be something you can participate in. So we are organizing it as a larger breakout session that will occur over a 2-hour time span instead of one. And so we will have it running on one of the days of the conference. I think it'll be on the first day. We're finalizing everything with the agenda now, but yes, if you are part of the conference, you can just go to that if that's the session you want to be a part of. I'd imagine a lot of people are going to want to be a part.
I would think
It's going to be
so.
a lot of fun.
Cool. So, like I say, that starts on Monday, April 15th, with some of the preliminaries. I believe there's a golf tournament, if I'm not mistaken, and then, as you say, running through Thursday the 18th with some of these other activities that sound pretty darn exciting. Something
Yeah.
else that I thought sounds exciting. You are involved in something kind of that's a legacy left over from your prior role, something called Opportunity Knocks. Can you say a bit about that?
Absolutely. So I had the opportunity to host season one of Opportunity Knocks, and I'm continuing in season two. As you mentioned, my most previous role that I served in was one of the owners and the chief people officer at CU Strategic Planning. So Jamie Strayer, who's the founder of CU Strategic Planning, had this amazing idea for this show, Opportunity Knocks. She and our business partners, we got on board with what that would look like and produce an outstanding show that aired on PBS nationally. It won a Telly Award in season one, and I believe that it's going to accomplish some great things in season two and beyond. The show really emphasizes the great work that CDFIs do to engage the community and advance stories, legacies, histories by changing the financial trajectory of families with some dynamic financial coaches who are part of it, like Gene Chatsky and Louis Barajas, and also Patrice Washington. It is an incredible show. It can be a tearjerker as well. But I love seeing the transformational journeys of the cast who were involved, what it did for their lives, and watching that great impact also offer the same inspiration to others who are tuned in to the show so they themselves can start their own journey as well. So I can't say that I had ever done something like that before. TV was something new for me, probably something when I was younger. I wanted to see what it would feel like, but it was really dynamic to be a part of this particular project, especially because of the purpose connected to it, watching lives be transformed on the spot with the cast that were involved, but also knowing that the show has the ability to create that same type of impact in the many people who will tune in around the country to it. So people have already been impacted. I believe season two is going to be even better. And I'm excited to see where the show goes and grows.
Very cool. Is that something that we can provide a link? Is it available for streaming?
Absolutely. So if you visit opportunityknocks.net, that website is up and it tells you more about the show. But not only about the show, it has episodes on the website as well. You also can out your PBS app, and it is also available on that platform as well.
Wonderful. We'll post a link to that too. Interesting stuff. Thank you so much for taking the time, Ronaldo. And April 15th through 18th down in Disney World. We'll post a link to NACUSO Network Conference. I will certainly be there, and I can't wait to see the hackathon, some of the other stuff you got going on, and always the next big idea. If people want to get in touch with NACUSO before that, NACUSO.org.
NACUSO.org, absolutely. And you can
Ronaldo,
always email me at ronaldo@nacuso.org as well.
Ronaldo, just Ronaldo, no last name. Ronaldo at NACUSO.org. Okay.
Absolutely.
Ronaldo Hardy, the president and CEO of NACUSO as of the middle of last year, and got some great stuff going on. Can't wait to see what the big reveal is coming up in April.
Thank you.
Great talking to you.
You too.
So we'll be posting some links to that one, including the Opportunity Knock show, which looks quite interesting, that I checked out myself after I spoke to Ronaldo. And also the link to the NACUSO Network Conference, April 15th through 18th, which I'm sure will be great. I'm always interested in all of what they have going on, and particularly the next big idea. We'll be there on site in Disney World, week of April 15th. Get your taxes done early. Join me down there. You'll see me there too. The couple of other conferences coming up before then that I'm quite excited about. Just to kind of get them on your radar, I'll be speaking in early February at the Deluxe Exchange, Deluxe Corporation, now a full-bore payments processor. They actually do more business in payments than they do, actual payments processing than they do in check printing, which is what they're still mostly known for. Down in the Fontainebleau in Miami, they're having their annual conference. It has a really interesting lineup of speakers as well. The keynotes, which usually is not the main thing that I'm looking at, but I find these pretty interesting. Jay Leno is going to be there. Kim Ng, the now former general manager of the Miami Marlins, I think she'll have a lot. And they actually signed her when she was still technically in that seat. And I'm guessing she now has permission to speak even more freely. And as a baseball fan, I'm really interested in that one. And a gentleman by the name of Zach Cass, who I was not familiar with, but he is an AI futurist and a veteran of the early days of OpenAI. He had the lead job of go-to-market strategy, which obviously is a pretty important thing at OpenAI, and he's now working more directly from a kind of a sole contributor standpoint to bring it to market. He wrote an interesting piece about why he left and where he sees AI going in Forbes back in September. I'll post a link to that one too. I'll be very interested to see what he has to say. And then, of course, I am always jazzed to be at the Government Affairs Conference. Now, America's Credit Unions, not CUNA GAC, America's Credit Unions GAC. That happens March 3rd through 7th in Washington, D.C. John Best and I will both be there speaking, and in a variety of contexts, but I would be there regardless of that fact. Always good stuff. I just noticed they announced their first keynote speaker, and it's a really good one. Theresa May, the former Prime Minister of the UK. Interesting twist. I've got to think that open banking comes into that someplace if you think about a payments angle. I mean, it is a government affairs conference, so politics in general I'm sure will be a conversation, but given what the UK has been doing with open banking and how it's clearly on the agenda for the CFPB and the banking regulators here in the States, how it might roll out, I think that would be a very fascinating conversation. With that, another episode of the Big Cast in the books. Again, my name is Glenn Sarvati. My firm is 154 Advisors, but you can find me through the Best Innovation Group. Again, big-fintech.com is where you will find all you'd like to know about the Best Innovation Group. Let me also give a plug to the Credit Union Town Hall, which we also run. We'll post a link to that. I'm not sure we've set the date for the next one. It's a monthly event, takes place on Wednesday afternoons at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Last couple of those have been really, really fascinating, both in terms of looking at the future. I think John did his New Year's resolutions for credit unions, and the one that just met last week. We'll post a link to that one too. But you can find out more about that at cutownhall.com. It's free and open to everyone, but you do need to register in advance. So please take a look at that and do so. You'll also find all of our past episodes of the Big Cast. If you go out to the website, big-fintech.com, go to the media tab, and you will be inundated with opportunities to find out more from the big players and the big thinkers in this space, who we love to have conversations with. You can track me down on LinkedIn. You can track John Best down on LinkedIn. The Best Innovation Group as well. You can find them at Big FinTech on X, or JB FinTech for John Best on X as well. We'll be back with more content next week. Again, my name is Glenn Sarvati, and thanks so much for listening.
Check back each week for the latest from the Big Cast. Or better yet, we hope you'll consider subscribing for free via Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Tweet us at Big FinTech. Email info@big-fintech.com. Or visit us at big-fintech.com and click on the Media tab, where you can post a comment or check out our archive of hundreds of past episodes. See you next week.